Hello, beloveds. Thank you so much for entrusting me to assist you in getting and shifting this energy, this heavy weight that's most likely on your shoulders as far as your IRS debt goes. And I remember what it was like when I first got to shift my IRS debt from being $52,000 in debt to now settling it for a fraction of the cost and self-pioneering my way through that. And so I'm so grateful to be able to be here and sharing that with you so that you can achieve and receive these results, which means better health, better mindset thinking, better ways of going about and utilizing a new monetary system as far as how we get to move through together, and really seeing that this is just simply energy that's shifting. So it's most of the time it's not really your fault. I really want you to hear that. It's really not your fault. It's just probably what you learned. Like for me personally, I had kind of like a mixed background where I was super poor with my mother and then went and lived with my father who was super rich and yet still was not very happy and also living in debt. So I took on these mindset programmings of a very young age of lack and scarcity, and even still with being provided for, living in a mansion growing up, seeing how that debt was still a lack and scarcity program that my father most likely took on at a young age from his father, and how he came from his own lifestyle. And so really it's recognizing that for most, how we do one thing, we do everything. So what I want you to hear is, and I want you to encourage, if you can just open your heart to this in the utmost respect that I share this with you, is that how we do one thing, we do another. And what do I mean by that? I actually mean that most of the time what people do is we're running over here to put a fire out, and then we're running over here to put a fire out in different aspects of our lives. So I encourage you to look at other aspects of your life, whether it's a marriage or family relationship dynamic, to obviously how we're managing our money, to looking at our health and seeing how all of that takes on into our health. Now that that's out of the way, I promise you I will just go strictly from here on out into exactly what you need to do in order to clear your IRS debt, okay? So, my loves, here's how it's going to go. Okay, so most likely you've received a notice saying you owe so much, and they come for different years. Most likely you've either been levied by state or federal's coming after you, and now you're kind of in a panic mode, right? Whether you have assets or not, whether you are a business entrepreneur or not, whether you're an employer or not, if you owe $10,000 in IRS debt, then, my loves, this offer and compromise makes sense for you, because why would we even want to spend 52, like for me it was 50,000. That would have taken me like years, like probably 10, 12, 15 years of my life to clear, right? So when you look at it as the time frame, let's get it cleared. Instead of giving them the money, put the money to paying. Like what I did was I went through TurboTax. TurboTax was really easy. You could do it on a phone. You could basically scan, like it's so easy. You can have it scanned, have your 1099s, your miscellaneous, your W-2s, everything just transferred. You cannot e-file if you owe back tax. So until you get the tax cleared, then you can start e-filing. But I love e-filing. I absolutely love it. I'm on top of it now. I'm doing my estimated quarterly tax, which basically means that I am paying tax 4 times a year before it's even owed. And so just basing it off of my monthly income. Also, you can reach out to the IRS and you can say, this is my, if you know what your yearly income is and it hasn't changed from the last year prior, then basically they can show you how to go about that, right? So the main thing is we've got to get your taxes done. Then, my loves, if you haven't been levied, then you're in a really good position, because This way, you're not waking up and finding a chunk of money, which is what happened to me. I woke up and I found a chunk of money missing, and I was like, what is this? And then I had to backtrack it with the bank, and the bank was like, the state came in and levied you. Now, what I want you to hear is, because there's two things to go through, there's state and then there's federal, right? So what I want you to hear is that if that does occur to you, you can always call state and say, hey, listen, I'm in a dire situation, especially right now. There's so many things going on with worldly events that are occurring, that are shifting and changing these times and eras, that they are more prone to relax as far as that goes. And of course, the more polite you are, the farther along you're going to get with people, right? So if you could just say, hey, I appreciate you bringing this to concern. I recognize this is a responsibility that I get to take full radical responsibility for, and I've just been in this situation to where it hasn't been easy on me financially, whatever it is that's going on. If it's, if it's choosing to pay your mortgage or your rent, or pay the IRS debt or state tax debt, let them know that, so that they are aware of your situation, because the more that you come across as a human being with actual things that are occurring in your life, then the more that they will understand that. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because what you can do during a levy is you can say, is there any way you can credit me some of that money back? Because I really need that for food or gas or whatever it is, right? And so just by asking that question, guess what happened? I got money accredited back. So instead of going into an anger, which a lot of that is mindset, right? Because you're pressured, you're frustrated, and so just being aware consciously that you're not taking it out on the worker that's just there to hired to answer the call and assist you, right? So that being nice and explaining your situation has brought back, like, I think it was like $300 that they accredited me out of the $1,200 that they took out of my account. So, my loves, those are the two things. Get your taxes done and square away your levies. Get on the phone call your state, call federal, however that works out. Call whoever sent you that letter. There will always be a contact info, okay? Also, if you are in a situation where you're like, I just cannot afford to pay my taxes at all, I get it, because I understand that everybody's personal situations financially, it's like, I don't want to I want to generalize and create a foundation for you, but I also want you to be aware that each's personal financial situation plays a huge part in this. So with that, what I want to share is also just having the resource of reaching out to your local. There's always a local IRS office, and they already supply a free way of doing your taxes for you. Now, during these different events that are shifting the world, I'm not sure what that looks like. Maybe they've switched it online by now. I'm not sure, but reach out to them if that's the case. Now, the thing about that is, though, if you are a business owner and you don't have all your receipts that are required in order to do those deductions, which, by the way, you're gonna want to have those receipts, because the more deductions you have, which also you can just take standardized deductions, but you're still going to need to have those deductions. Now, what I got to learn as I was taking papers and stashing them in the corner with receipts, and it was just mind cluttery, effery, right? As far as like, okay, now what? I sit down through a box of hundreds of little tiny receipts and go through the dates and figure out what year is what year. Obviously, that's going to drive anybody insane. Even if you were to hire somebody, it's going to drive them a little bit cuckoo, right? So what I suggest from here on out, if you're a business owner and you can get those deductions, is to get yourself a business debit card. And with that business debit card, all you have to do, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. It's real life, folks. This is real life stuff. So thank you. So what I suggest you to do is to get a business checking account. If you don't have one already, get your business debit card and use that debit card every time you have a transaction, whether it's lunch, whether it's buying outfits for your work, whether it's cart maintenance to oil changes, all those things that accrue as far as write-offs go, mileage, all those things. Then, instead of trying to find those crazy amounts of piles of receipts, which you could still keep, for me, I chuck. I'm like, hey, throw it away, right? No, I don't want the receipt. Because I'm already aware that pops up on a nice, organized transactional of everything that I've done with my business. Now, personal transactions, don't put it in there. Have a separate account for it. Or if you want to go through and itemize what's personal and what's not, you still can, because you have a monthly statement to go through. You just print it out, and guess what? It's only 12 months. So it's all organized for you, even down to each month, which if you were to ever get audited, the IRS, which you will, by the way, but it's going to be different, and I'll explain that further along. The IRS, and it's not the way you think. So when you hear the word audit, please relax your body, because I know this. I remember how stressful it felt when I heard the word audit. So it's not what you think, I guarantee you. Yet in this case, if you were to get audited in this particular manner, you would then be like, here's everything, and it's all organized for you, and whoever would come and audit you would be so elated that you did that. So my loves, especially instead of just going, here's a bunch of receipts, right? Here's a box of receipts. Just picture that. You wouldn't want to have an auditor like upset from the get-go. Okay, so that is the other tip that I want to provide to you moving forward, so that you can shift this energetic debt energy into, let's get you debt-free and saving money and all the other realms. Like for me, it was like the next thing was getting my credit score up and savings and all these other things, turning my mess into my message and being here with you. And so the next step is, after you get your taxes done, right? Now let's say actually during your taxes, you by chance don't even know what you owe, or you don't know what the IRS knows. You can always reach out to them and just call the general line and say, listen, I need you to send me, if like say someone sent in the W-2s or the 1099s, there's always going to be a copy there for you. So I need you to send me all of that information, right? And they will send it to you, and then you can see and you can match it, even just to double check yourself. Like for me, it was great because I had like 15 to 20 accounts, and I wasn't sure who turned in what or what it is that they had. So I wanted to make sure that I turned in and it matched what was being matched with what they had. So that was beautiful. You wait for that to come in. Now, you may find that you get a representative that doesn't even know what an offer in compromise is, right? So if that's the case, you can always just politely hang up and then call back or explain to them. Most of the time they will know they may go by O.I.C. That's another abbreviated term, O.I.C. So offer in compromise, when you speak to them, you're going to say, I'm interested in the offer in compromise. I owe over $10,000. And this is specifically, my loves, for the government, the federal taxes aspect. State taxes, what you're going to do is you're going to call them up and they're going to say, you owe such and such. Most likely what they'll do, what you can ask them is you can say, is there any way that I can get that down? I'm in a dire situation. And they're going to be a quicker process for you. than the federal. So, because it's not going to be as much as how much you owe for federal. So, what they'll probably do is they'll put you on a monthly system. Now, pertaining to each state and how each state delegates this, which I wish the United States just across the board had this overall regulational way. Sometimes you see this in a lot of other, like PPP loans and EIDL loans and all these small, like, it's so crazy that each state has its own thing. Like, we're all just one state. It should just be all one regulated way, one regulated system. However, it's not. Yet, what I can suggest to you is to negotiate with them your monthly amount. So get it down as much as possible. If you really can only pay $15 a month, tell them, say, hey, listen, if they come in and they say, listen, we want you to pay $45 a month, then come in and say, listen, I can only pay $15 a month. Is there any way you can meet me there? And this is why. And, obviously keep your voice calm when you do it. And is there any way you can work with me on that? Because I'd love to start getting this cleared, right? So this is some of the dialogue that I'm just kind of sharing with you that I went through. And that's exactly what happened with state. And then it went away. Eventually, it was just like they just automatically pulled it out of my account. I didn't have to think about it. Just that's how state got cleared up, right? So, my loves, going into federal's a little bit different. So, what they'll have you do is you will finish it may take 10 months, a year. It may take a process. That's okay, because now they are aware that you're going into this process, and it stops them. It stops them from, if you haven't had a levy, it stops them from giving you a levy. So then it buys you more time, because you're going to have to wait for them. So you might as well enjoy that it's biding you more time to where you don't have to pay them right away. And what I mean by that is after you finish your taxes, you turn in all the years that are owed, and you can ask them what years are owed so that you specifically know what it is in their system, because sometimes there may be errors or things like that. So you might as well use that time to make sure that whatever it is, it may be something that you thought you turned in, and for some reason they don't see that. So that's a great time to double check, to get everything just cleared out of the way. Then they will send you a letter, and they will say, okay, this is your overall amount for 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016. This is your overall amount that you owe. And then you look at that and you're like, okay, it's definitely what I know is it's definitely more than 10 grand. So I want offer and compromise. So then what you do is it's form 656, I believe. As far as I know, it was 656, form 656. Ask them to send you the offer and compromise application form. And what that will look like, my loves, is it will basically, it's like a brief audit. It's a gentle audit, okay? Because they're going to want to make sure that you're not just owing $200,000, $500,000, because some of my clients have owed. One client I worked with owed $1 million. Her ex-husband committed fraud with taxes, and she wasn't even aware. So in that case, you definitely, there's a reason why they're going to ask you for your bank information. It's basically so that, you're not this multimillionaire, that they want to make sure that you're in a situation to where the audit works. So you're going through an interview. It's not really an audit. It's really like an interview. And also another thing I want to share with you is that a lot of these representatives, it's like they are babysitting adult kids going through some of the things that they're having to deal with. And I'm not saying that you are. I'm just saying in general, they may be jaded because the person prior to you may have done something, acted out in a tantrum, or all these things. So you don't really know what's going on in those moments, right? And when you fill that form out, it will have they want your bank checking, routing information. They want to know all your expenses. They're going to ask you your monthly income. They're going to ask you all the basics, right? On the form. You just go through the form, fill it out, mail it to them on the deadline that they say to mail it back at, okay? What I did was I certified mailed it so that I knew that there was a signature and there was a date, so that if they came back and said, you did not mail this in on time, it's like, no, wait, I have a copy here with certified mail that says this was the day it was received, this was the day it was signed, okay? So that's very important to do that. Then, once that occurs, they will then assign you a loan officer, right? And you will explain also in that application why it is that you want to, pay, right? Now, when the loan officer then does the interview with you, which is a completely different department than the IRS itself, so it's a specific offer and compromise department. When the loan officer reaches out to you and they have an interview, for me, I got a drill sergeant officer, and had I not been nice to him, I wouldn't be here right now sharing. He was the one that basically, this was where I pioneered my results, because he was the one that was like, how could you do this? It was like this whole put down moment of, you've been irresponsible, and I could have just flipped in that moment. And I'm not sure if he was doing that to assess me, to possibly deny me or not. But I was like, you know what? You're right, and I'm here, and I want to make it right. And I've never been in this situation, and here's my situation now, and I just want to make it right. So what can I do to be responsible, to make sure that this doesn't happen again, and that I just want to let you know I've learned my lesson. This isn't something that I want to go through. It hasn't been fun. I don't want to go through this again. And so that was my conversation with him. And so when I started talking to him that way, then I realized that he started to relax in his voice. And with that, then that was where I gained momentum, because I was like, is there anything I should be asking you that I'm just not thinking of, because I'm new to this? And so he then advised me certain things, like, well, make sure that, when you make your estimated tax, because that's going to be another thing, that while you're going through approval process, they're going to ask you to make an estimated tax. So if you turned in your form, like, say, the next estimated tax, and you turn it in right before July, they may say, hey, in order for this to get approved, we want you, this is for small business only. If you are an employee, don't worry about this. They will automatically deduct it out of your paycheck. If you are a business owner, it is up to you and your responsibility, I believe, for the next 5 years after you pay off your offer and compromise, that you do quarterly tax. So what he will say, so like I talked to him right before the next quarterly tax was due in July. So he said, July, that's when you get to pay your quarterly tax. And it was for the year we were in, that we were clearing this debt together. So that occurred. And then, so I went ahead, and he would say, make sure you date it, make sure you put your social security number on the check itself, and things like that I would have never thought of had I not asked him, is there anything that would make it easier on your guys' end, or something that would assist me? Now, through all of that, of course, you get a one-time shot, maybe twice if you're lucky, to negotiate. And this is huge, because if you don't negotiate at the proper number that you come in on, as far as, like, well, for me, I went from 52 to only paying $5,000. So how did I come up with that? After he got done chewing me out, right? I then was like, I'm going to ask this guy. Like, I'm just going to be real bold and ask him. I know that you cannot tell me, I told him, I dialogued him this way. I said, I know that you cannot tell me what I could come in at as an offer, yet knowing my situation now that I've shared with you, if you were to share, not, of course I don't want you to get in trouble or anything like that, but if you were to insinuate a number, what do you think would be a good one to go at? Because of course I don't want to come up with a number and then not have it get approved and then start this process. Like, I want to make it easy on both your guys' end. I don't want to tie up more paperwork. And he actually was like, $5,000. He's like, well, it's not my place to give you advice, but you could go with $5,000. And that, my loves, is how I'm here now sharing this with you. So what that showed me was a quarter of a cost of what you owe is how low. So that was I was like boggled on that. So that's exactly what I wrote down. I was like, $5,000. So I wrote that down. And then I waited for a couple of months for them to get back to me, and then and so if there was the next quarterly tax estimate, like in September, I made that payment on time so that when they checked, they saw that payment was in on time. Then I got the letter and it said, you have been approved for to pay your balance of $52,000 to $5,000. And if you don't pay your estimated quarterly tax for the next 5 years, we can come back and just add that debt right back to you. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to let that occur, right? So now, again, for the people that are employees, you're going to want to ask them as far as quarterly tax goes, but just double check with them. They will take that out on your paycheck. This is specifically for the contractors, the corporations, whether you're S Corp, LLC, it doesn't matter. If you are in business on your own, then that's what you get to look at, right? Is the estimated tax. It's up to you. It's up to making sure, whether you have an accountant or whoever, that I would be so serious on that you make sure that goes through, okay? So with that, then they basically were like, they worked with me. So it wasn't like I had to come up with the full amount of the $5,000. So after I did that, then I paid like $1,000 a month. And so by the time that they had approved the actual $5,000, I only owed like $2,000 more. And so then I was like, okay, awesome. I'll just write them a remaining check for $2,000. Let's get this cleared. And then they will write you a letter, and you want to hold on to that letter so that you have proof. And that is in your records that you've cleared that. And so, my loves, that is exactly walking you through step by step the process of how I went from $52,000 in debt to clearing it to $5,000 and really looking at that letter as like a $47,000 paycheck. So the thing I want to wrap up here is, and of course, feel free to, you've got this module now to replay anytime you want to. Obviously, I'm walking you from beginning, middle to end, so you can pause, play, take notes, go back, situate yourself before each call goes, and recourse yourself. In any way you want to utilize this module, is what I'm saying is feel free to utilize it in a way that gets you these results. And I want to hear about them. Please come back to me and share with me your results. Share with me, right? For those of you that have property and things like that, please do not hide your assets. They will know if you own a couple houses and things like that. I had like a 84-year-old client, and I do provide one-on-one coaching calls. However, those are those, you just reach out to me or my team, and those prices will be provided to you. And you can just provide a brief explanation as your personal financial situation, because I recognize that that gets to go into more detail as far as getting those results for you. And obviously, if you're serious about it, it just makes sense. I wish I had a coach here to share and privately ask questions to. So this may or may not assist you fully, or you may feel like, you know what, I would like to reach out and I would also like to be coached. And so we can do that. We can set that up. Whatever that looks like for you, I'm here to get you IRS debt free. So if there's any questions, or you feel like, there's any tech issues or anything, just feel free to reach out to me or my team, and we will get back to you right away. And with all of that, I wish you the most successful here on out clearing IRS debt. And remember, if I can do it, you can do it too. I fully know that. And it only took me 10 months to clear from 10 years of holding on to that. And that went into my health too. And so once that was like off of me, off of my shoulders, my health drastically improved. And I also got to look to other aspects of my life where that got to drastically improve. And also hiring coaches myself that assisted me with what was really internally going on. And that's also here why I've created a plethora of modules that you can also take a look at to see, so that we can get even more clear as to what else is going on that may be unconsciously operating versus consciously implementing and embodying these tools, tips, and practices, so that you do create these results, not only here with your IRS debt, but through all the other plethoras of areas here that I've compiled for you, if you so choose to do that. I'm here whichever way you choose to navigate. So thank you so much. And again, please feel free, and I'd love to hear your feedback. Whatever it is, I'd love to hear your feedback. So thank you again.